Smooth 981 FM. Use the hashtag freshly pressed. Trust me, if you send that tweet before 8 o'clock, I will acknowledge your tweet. Take it live on air before we wrap things up on the show. We're streaming live on YouTube, Smooth 981 FM Lagos. And for the next 30 minutes, with analysis just for you, one of the finest voices on Lagos radio, one of the finest public affairs analysts out of Nigeria, one of our greatest exports. I tell you for free, Devil Korea. Good morning.
Morning, ladies. Cool Friday.
We'll get straight into it, beginning with this story from the Vanguard newspaper. Marketers raise petrol pump price from 165 naira to 185 naira per liter. In fact, it was a unilateral decision on Tuesday to raise the pump price of petrol from 165 naira to 185 naira in disregard to the federal government's approved pump price of 165. Please bring us up to speed with this one.
Well, what do we call this update now? Because as we all know, we've been experiencing a fuel shortage across the country for some months now. Some days you have it, some days you don't. As always, once it becomes scarce, and with the what I call it panic buying taking place, many people are at stations struggling for fuel. And all this while, the marketers have been sending out warning signals that the fuel queues would last longer than many people had planned, as against the government's position that, well, we have sufficient fuel in place. Well, this week, let's say later at the end of this week, some of the fuel stations have started selling at higher than regulated pricing. That's at the 165. Now, Moman, that's the Major Oil Marketers Association, said that the current price was no longer realistic. Hence, they've also moved to up their sales in locations where this demand. So, from the Vanguard's position, some of the fuel stations, especially in Abuja, started adding 10 naira or 20 naira. So, like at Mabushi, they were selling at 175. Um, at some places in Cairo, mobile station, they were selling at 185 per liter. Now, some motorists did say that it was better for them to buy at that increased price of either 10 or 20 naira higher than to have to face the fuel queues or to waste man hours waiting and fighting, or to even have to, for those who have change, to have to pay the black market price. And I remember the last time I was in Abuja, I bought a black market at 3,500 for 10 liters because I could not spend long hours waiting just to get to where I wanted to. Now, the IPMAN Association has mentioned that, well, the private depots, which is where they're getting most of their fuel. Remember, IPMAN is all the independent stations, not the major ones that we know of, Total, Mobile, AP, and Co. Now, IPMAN has the majority of stations nationwide, and they've said if they're buying at 185, sorry, if they're buying between 167 and 170, that's at the private depots, there's no way they can sell at 165.
Of
One,
course.
two, the stations will need to bridge the gap of the diesel, that's the transportation,
Mm.
which is going at 800, which is almost 3 to 4 times higher.
But very quickly, Devo, isn't there a regulator who does the price regulation, especially for
Yes,
fuel?
sorry, I was getting there. The thing is, they've made their case plain and transparent, all
Mm.
right? Now, the point is, if they are now against the regulated pump price from the government selling at higher prices, what are we going to do? Right? Yes, it comes as quick ease to Nigerians because you don't have to struggle anymore as you used to before. But the question is, what happened to the subsidy? Subsidy was earmarked. Subsidy is meant to be paid to bring it down to the 165. So who will account for that? This story doesn't uh, give any update from either the NMPC or the Nigerian Upstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Agency, neither a position from the Ministry of Petroleum or the Minister of Petroleum himself, who is the president. So I didn't see him saying enough is enough in this case. And the point is, the president must be held accountable because the buck stops on his table, not just as a president, but because he chose to maintain that portfolio as the minister of petroleum. And the worst part is those who were meant to represent us at the federal level, the National Assembly, have kept completely silent. So Nigerians, you have an issue to take your National Assembly up on and to ensure that they do not sleep until they answer, because you cannot force us to pay the higher prices and at the same time money was earmarked for subsidy. So where's that money going to?
Mm.
Nobody's discussing, okay, wow, if you're going to be paying the higher prices, that means there should be some savings on the amounts that was
But it's
earmarked.
also very interesting to note that the moment they unilaterally agreed on Tuesday that they were going to dispense the product for 185 naira, the field queues disappeared. Now, these queues have been persistent since February this year. That's in Abuja, by the way. And because they've all agreed that we'll sell at 185 naira, suddenly everybody has the products, less cars at the filling stations, all the pumps are dispensing, and life is back to normal. Well, hopefully we get a reaction from the Minister of State for Petroleum or the head of the Mid and Downstream Regulatory Agency between now and Monday. But keeping things moving on the show this morning from Daily Post 2023, APC postpones official unveiling of Shetima as Tinubu's running mate. What is going on within the party? Any ideas, Davo?
Well, it's a lot of political brouhaha taking place within and outside the parties. In this case here, the ruling party, as with other parties, have presented um, their running mates, and you would have wondered why so much brouhaha over what is referred to as a spare tire. However, what we've seen is that in the political calculation of parties, they're using the vice president position to be able to pool other voting blocks within the country. So in this case, many of them put placeholders up until the time that they were able to secure whoever they had in mind. And in the case of the APC with its presidential candidate, that's Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he had unveiled the former Borno State governor, that Kashim Shettima, as his running mates. Okay, now having taken him to the president across the Salah break, he was meant to present his running mates to the party, um, which was meant to take place actually yesterday. But we hear from the publicity core of the APC that this has been postponed to sometime next week. Now, many people are having mixed reactions over this, that maybe this was based on the issue of the Muslim ticket by the party, because already, ever since he announced it sometime last week, there have been some major fault lines or cracks within the APC on this position. One being the fellow governors who had rooted for Tinubu, having ensured that he wins the primary, especially the northern governors who said that they were not consulted and that they were angry that that choice was made without even any recourse to them. One, two. Some members of the APC feel that the Muslim ticket does not reflect not gender, diversity balance amongst religion, and in this case, even though religion is not the best basis to for selection, but it's apparently the strongest basis of selection or criteria for many in the country. As you can see, there's a big infighting over.
With our next deadline for 15th July being today, are we going to see any changes really with the nomination of Kashim Shetima?
Well, I don't think so. But as you can see, APC has held back on their announcement, even though people have heard. But that's about
The party is saying they're going to make the announcement next week, but INEC's deadline for any changes has to be today.
yes. So as you can see, it's yet to be seen whether INEC will hold their grounds on that. But I believe um, that will be sorted out simply because the major agitation already, I think, as of yesterday in the papers, the Tinubu camp did say that that decision was final, and um, they've been given reasons as to why they made this move, seeing that the Christian North was not a major voting bloc, okay, despite their numbers. So the point is, somehow one would ask why this agitation. Some have even resigned from the APC because of this position. Why this uproar, even from those within the party and those outside? I mean, the majority of the media has been rife with discussions over this ticket. It's as if we're all already having voted for APC before the election had taken place.
Well,
If you're not
because
satisfied with the APC, just one out of over 30 parties. If you're not satisfied with the APC's choice, you have like 20 more
no, but
parties to choose from.
quickly, the APC is the ruling party in Nigeria, and so we must see internal democracy even amongst the party. The
Well,
party has,
it's
just a
not going.
moment,
Okay.
Davo, the party has Christians and Muslims, but if you look at it critically, the president is a Muslim, the Senate president, the Speaker of the House of Representatives,
Hmm.
majority of the security heads of security in Nigeria. A lot of Nigerians are also concerned. If this happened in Mr. President's administration in the last 7 years, and then should the APC win in 2023, what is going? Are we taking it a step further, where you have the president and
It's
vice president,
there
the
is
speaker,
there
the Senate
is
president? Come on,
there is
Devo.
no point knocking your heads over the APC's choice. It's like saying I marry a beautiful bride and someone else says, "Well, that bride is ugly." That's your business. It's APC making the choice. As citizens, you also have a choice. There's not one party in Nigeria. There are 30 parties. If you don't like APC's brand of politics of having one religion in terms of the ticket, maybe you need to start looking at other parties
Quickly, I need
to
to
see whether you can
throw
get
this
those
in.
who give you what you like.
Kashim Shettima had won his senatorial primaries. INEC is saying right now he can't. The second position, the person who came second, cannot take over. He has to write to officially step down for the commission to set up a re-election in that particular senatorial district for someone else to be picked by party delegates. Jen also taking it back to Cross River North, where the sitting governor of Cross River State, Professor Senator Ben Ayade, also won his re-election bid. I mean, for the party primaries there. Apparently, his chief of staff Martin Sorim technically was a placeholder
Right.
because he had to resign and tell INEC, oh, he's not interested again. And INEC had to conduct a rerun where Professor Ben Ayade won the election. But let's keep things going because of our time. ASU strike enters sixth month as Nigerian government declares no agreement.
Well, I think this was the Friday Joker. Just allow each and every one of us to go home laughing at our harsh realities. Um, just within the week, we heard the strong statement from the president saying that enough is enough,
Is enough
EIE.
really enough?
And he was talking to ASU saying that they should not, what I call it, mortgage the future of students who were in campus. And this was based on the fact that the strike had been protracted. Many actually felt that with him saying that he was actually going to step in. And at that time, the ASU was saying that, well, if the federal government or if the president signs their renegotiated agreement, that they would resume classes immediately. Well, as they enter their 6 month, okay, since the February 14th, when they commenced the strike, the Minister of Employment and Labor, that's Chris Ngige, has come out to say that there was no collective bargaining agreement in front of the presidency, that the president has nothing to sign, that it was the ASU president that was misleading the public by making those assertions, that the collective bargaining agreement, what ASU is waiting for them to sign, is going to be among the federal government, meaning it's not the president's place, that the committee consists of the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labor and Employment, the Budget Office of the Federation, National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission, Office of the Head of Service of the Federation, would all be the ones to sign the new agreement if it is to come to place. But I think we all understand what the ASU's position was. They were simply saying if they haven't gotten headway with the ministries and agencies, then they require presidential intervention. So one really wonders when the president said enough is enough, was he really serious about it? Because this is 6 months into it, and we're not hearing a positive position on. There was a time they were saying, "Oh, they've reached that 90% of the negotiation." I really whisked that off, wrote it off simply because this striking for students has gone on. It's not just because of this year. It's a perennial thing that many people have gotten used to. Students who should have done 4 year to 5 year courses have done between six. Some have even been in university as long as up to 8 years. Okay, now if they are going to go on strike, meaning this is their last opportunity or last option, whether it's this administration or the next administration, universities should not resume until they get a tangible position from the federal government. It might be by way of getting the 200 billion that they said if the minimum they get they'll resume. It might be by way of saying, okay, the federal government doesn't have money, we're going to uh, open up autonomy, whether partial or full, so that they can find private investors to raise these schools back onto some level of quality. But there's no point going this far and then just resuming just for the sake of sentiment or pressure. They need to get it done once and for all. I mean, there's no gainsaying as to the rots and how derelict our universities have become. There's no point producing half-baked graduates into the market. If they're not going to get it right this time round, then they should forget it.
Quickly, let's look through some of the messages that you've sent across to us this morning. Ezudo from Lekki says, to be honest, I think many motorists will rather pay the unjust 185 naira a litre for PMS as long as there is petrol to buy when it's needed. This will eventually be added to prices of goods and services, and this all adds up to the spiraling inflation in Nigeria. While Abayomi says the private depots can't even sell for 170 naira if they import on their own, cause landing cost is about 185 naira. So the private depots are importing for NNPC. They cannot sell for 170 naira. Please, is federal government owing ASU members salaries, grants, infrastructure, or it's about UTAS? Well, it's a very deep issue the federal government is having with ASU. And Peter says fuel pump price hike is much expected right from the inception of this wicked administration of PMB. Peter, take it easy. We have this one in no name. Okay, Vincent in the UK. Between February and now, fuel in the UK rose from 1.65 pounds to 1.89 pounds. What I'm trying to say is remove the subsidy, invest the 4 trillion naira subsidy money heavily on the power sector, improve power generation and distribution. It will force down the demand for fossil fuel in Nigeria. Dami from Ikoyi says the APC has given the middle finger to the northern minorities. Good luck to them. Okay. Idima Puza says President Buhari scoring self high in corruption fight is really funny. How many high profile looters were jailed under this government? Rather, their cases were swept under the carpet but by the almighty APC's broom. Okay. Um, We'll take just one more and we get back to the stories. It appears that NPC and the marketers are deliberately creating this fuel scarcity situation to force Nigerians to accept the petrol price increase and removal of subsidy. How has the removed subsidy from diesel, jet A1, and kerosene benefited Nigerians? The party in power has failed to implement the changes it promised Nigerians in 2014 and does not deserve to continue in power in 2023. I hope Nigerian youth and their parents will come out to vote in 2023. Well, every man has the right to vote for any candidate of his choice, irrespective of the situations bedeviling the country at this time. Let's take it over to the Vanguard newspaper now, where INEC spits fire over PVCs allegedly buried in politicians' house. Well, Festus Okoye, who is National Commissioner and Chairman Information and Voter Education, was speaking and saying the stance of the electoral umpire. And from what he said, he says that INEC will not take this lightly.
Well, INEC has reacted to the viral video that went out about how stashed PVCs in a very high profile person's house were discovered and buried. And they've said in this first response that every Nigerian is entitled to their PVC. Yes, they will not take it lightly, and investigations will be on to find who is culpable of this diabolical scheme intended on differentiating, disenfranchising Nigerians, and that person will be sanctioned under the law. Now, you see, the point here is this. This, yes, is a quick response to an incident that has come up. However, INEC has a major responsibility here because the safety and the efficiency of the voter registration process is their duty. And we have not seen um, there are still some questionable scenarios that INEC needs to address, and this is not leaving much. How do I call it? Much sense of hope for Nigerians who want to be part of this electioneering process. Yes, we have seen an upsurge in the desire to be registered, unlike before, which INEC has acknowledged. And so, what we've seen in like three categories, that we've seen a lot of registration complication, which is coming from this upsurge. So in a lot of centers, they have inadequate registration equipment. Okay, so you have more people than they can even register at a time. Now, this is especially around the southeast and the southwest, especially here in Lagos. You have a lot of registration segregation. In some places, they've said that most southeastern voters have not been given that opportunity. You also have registration failure, whereby people are unable to collect their cards even though they have registered. And in some cases, people are asked to pay money before they're given their cards. Now, this has led to this massive failure, which honestly I'm not happy about. And what I will tell Nigerians is, please, just like this case was discovered and exposed on the social media, please have your cameras on hand. Take pictures of any center that you see nonsense and complication taking place, or where they're asking you for money or refusing to register you. Take their pictures and post them online. Expose them. It's INEC's duty to ensure that registration centers work, and wherever it seems as if they respond faster to the social media posts than they do to when you petition or you write them. So post these
All
things,
right.
expose them so that we can get INEC's presence on ground as fast as possible.
Quickly, let's see if we could take this story in from the Punch newspaper. Finally, Kwankwaso announces Pastor Idahosa's running mate for the 2023 presidential election. Now, he did confirm this on Thursday in a statement entitled Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso picks Bishop Idahosa's running mate. Um, what do you make of this?
Well, this is the man of God to the rescue. Huh? It's been a lot of funny memes that have been coming out because of the new Nigeria People's Party's pick for their running mates. Maybe they took a cue from what happened between the Muslim vote of the APC. So they've gone ahead on the under tangent to show Nigerians that they're a party that respects religious balance and diversity by picking a sitting bishop, that's Bishop Isaac Idahusa, who comes in, as they said, after carefully considering others, that he had a sterling record and would be credible to Nigerians. My take on this is NMPP really, they are really taking the piss, for those who understand that. NMPP or Kwakwanso is actually rubbing religion in our faces. Now, why do I say this? Because are we so bereft of common sense that all we can say to the problems, the myriad of problems that Nigeria is in, the backward level of life, standard of living, and suffering and hardship of the economy and insecurity, with all of that, a party's only option to choose for a running mate was someone who literally has no record of governance, right?
Mm.
And that the whole idea was, as long as he represented the faith, The truth is, even though we joke about these things, um, uh, it's clear, it's really, really clear that politicians take the Nigerian people for granted, that they honestly believe Nigerian people are fools. Here we are talking about fuel scarcity and what Nigerians have had to suffer. Businesses are shutting down because of the hiked diesel cost. And here you are bringing people that you believe because all that we agitate about is religion. Well, do they have a point or not? How come? And some would argue on the other side that, well, maybe that's where Nigerians' minds are. Because as you can see, even though we know Asiwaji Bola Tinubu not to be um, he's not a bigot. He's detribalized. We know that. Um, many people are still burning up heat and pressure on him for choosing a Muslim ticket. So Nigerians really have to choose what they really want. They really have to drop their sentiment and maybe start discussing the issues that affect them.
All right. Quickly, let's see if we can run through some of the messages before we go. Jane is saying most lecturers are teaching in private schools. T in Yaba, is there any challenge with developing the right partnership with the private sector to fund the universities? These would be in form of foundations that would assist the growth and provide all-inclusive education. Henry, I spent 6 years for a 5 year course. You're lucky. This was 1988 to
Some
2004.
have done 7, 8.
This RC thing is just another proof that nothing improves in Nigeria. I feel you, Henry. If you, I mean, spent this in 1998 to 2004, and almost 18 years after, the story remains the same. It's sad. Well, that was says, voting his administration's fight of corruption high and lamenting about the insurgency deterioration over the past 12 years is like prescribing medicine after death. Even as far back as 1980, I had started feeling uncomfortable about the presence of grazing herdsmen in Lagos. One thing I know for sure, this animosity and antagonism couldn't have reached such preposterous proportions under the watch of Olusegun Obasanjo. It's ironical to be talking about cross-border interaction and still be building railway lines into the heart of conflict source. We're just fond of expressing shock at what we indirectly caused and initiated. Period. Austin from Satellite says APC and Tinubu planning to change Shetima as his running mate. If they like, let him go to another planet and bring someone that looks like an angel. Nigerians are tired of the APC. Okay, point noted. ASU is not exactly fighting for students. I had lecturers that didn't meet more than 5 times throughout a 4 year course because we're all actively engaged with different public and private universities. I stand with the government on the issue of paying lecturers through the centralized payment system. However, other demands should be met. Anthony comes in. Nigerians, we are what we are, taking every opportunity to cash in. If we're sincere, how much of diesel do we use to move a truck in Apapa to a depot in Lekki? Taking it practically, for a 45,000 liter truck to move that distance, you obviously need nothing more than 50 liters of diesel, which means 1 naira on a liter is even more than enough. Not just about Lagos, Tony. How about the other parts of the country? The contestants are now complete. We now have Archbishop as a running mate.
Background.
So complaint of non-representation is gone. Daniel sent that one across. Eze says Muslim ticket is bigger than fuel prices. Such a lengthy one from T in Yaba, but thank you very much. A man who says it's the turn of Yorubas is detribalized. No, please. That's from Tukuni Douglas. But thank you very
No,
much.
no, no. Let's just correct that. Miloko was not about the Yoruba people. It was the turn of the person who supported the current administration.
Thank you very much, Davo, for being a part of the show today. Let's do this again on Monday at 7:30. At 8:15 today, we'll take you right inside the locker room. My name is Victor Pepple. Good morning.
The headlines. The
Okay,
stories.
Thank you very much, Dave.
I will disappear.
In-depth analysis of
Ooh,
national
this